Hi everybody, this is part two of a two-part video. We're working on a Dodge 2.4 liter engine, replacing the head gasket, timing belt, water pump, and the front main seal. In this video we'll be reinstalling the head gasket and the timing belt. Okay, so in part one of the video we removed the head, all of the front end of the engine for doing the timing belt. We reinstalled the water pump. Everything else we still need to go ahead and reinstall. Click here to watch part one if you haven't watched part one yet. Now we'll get the old head gasket out. Right here in the back right corner, that's where the oil leak happens. This car only has about 70,000 miles on it, but it looks pretty gross in there. I don't know if he's using bad gas or what. So we'll do our best job to clean up where the old head gasket material was, and also clean the piston heads. You're going to want to get absolutely everything you possibly can get off of the old block head right here. Any foreign contaminants here is going to interfere with sealing of the new head gasket. Okay, here I'm using a small brush that has brass bristles. The ones that are made out of brass are soft enough that they're not going to scratch anything. I'm just really gently, not using any pressure really, trying to clean out as much as we can off of the surface here. With a wrench on the crankshaft, I'm rotating the engine so I can get access to the other set of pistons. I'm very carefully using the scraper to get some of these more thicker carbon deposits. As long as you're scraping just the carbon and you're not scraping the top of the piston material itself, this is one way you can get the material off. When you can't scrape safely anymore, go ahead and return to the brass brush, and you can kind of brush through any remaining carbon. Don't forget to rotate the engine back to top dead center. I would rather err on the side of caution and not get the pistons completely clean than to risk scratching them, so I'm just going to finish up leaving not a perfect job. If there's any remaining carbon, that'll burn off. I'm putting just a little bit of oil into each cylinder to protect it on the first startup. Make sure that none of this oil gets onto the block surface. We'll clean the bottom side of the cylinder head as well. This material is a lot softer than the top of the engine block, so be really careful not to scratch it. After I got all the big chunks off, I went back and used a rotary brass wheel to finish cleaning the bottom side of the head as well as the combustion chambers. It doesn't take a lot here, just a few seconds really. Probably about 30 seconds to do the entire bottom of the head. Be sure to clean off the bottom of the head as well. Any contamination, and it'll interfere with the sealing of the head gasket. This Velcro head gasket kit includes all of the gaskets and seals that you need to replace the head gasket, as well as a new type of metal layer sandwich head gasket, which is much more durable than the one that was installed in the car originally. I'll post links to all of the parts that we're replacing, where you can buy them on Amazon, as well as some of the tools, special tools that we're using. Now make sure that you got the head gasket properly oriented. If it's in backwards or upside down, it could block some of the passages and cause motor damage. After verifying everything is in correctly and all the surfaces are clean, go ahead and put the head back onto the top of the engine. Gently maneuver it back into place until it sits down on the locator dowels. It's strongly recommended to use new head bolts These are not that expensive. Amazon has them. I'll put a link in the description. To ensure accurate torque readings, make sure to put a bit of oil into each of the bolts as you insert them. Following the correct tightening sequence, just hand tighten them until they're just good and snug. Be sure to check the torque specifications for your specific motor. For this motor, the specifications are as I'm showing in the upper right hand corner. So first we're going to tighten them down to 25 foot-pounds in the specified sequence. Then we'll go back and tighten them to 50 foot-pounds. Then we'll go back again and verify that they're still at 50 foot-pounds. And finally we'll go through and turn them an additional 1/4 turn, regardless of whatever the final torque reading is. Okay, now we're tightening to 50 foot-pounds. Okay, after going back and verifying they're at 50 foot-pounds, I'm doing the final 90-degree final tightening. The front and rear end caps actually use a gasket material, so we have to make sure to clean off all the old stuff before we put new gasket here. You also want to make sure that the cam bearings are clean before returning the camshafts. I'm reinstalling all the self-adjusting lifters, putting a little bit of motor oil into the holes to make sure that they go in smoothly. After that, I put back in all the rocker arms. Before reinstalling the cam, I'm putting some assembly lube on each of the bearings. A little bit of motor oil would work as well. I'm putting on the new cam end seal here. And then I'm putting the cam back into the engine. And when I'm doing this, I'm orienting the best I can back to top dead center. There's a dowel at the bottom side of each of the cam, and when that's pointing down, that's roughly where it needs to be. And putting some assembly lube on each of the cam lobes. And now we're reinstalling all of the bearing caps. You want to put these back in the exact same location where it was installed and in the same orientation. Don't forget to put gasket seal on each of the two end caps. Don't overdo it. A little tiny bit goes a long way. Rather than following a torque sequence for the camshaft bearing caps, I just kind of tighten them until it's snug, and I work my way through, and as I do that, it pulls the camshaft down, and then some of the ones which were previously snug become loose, and then I tighten those ones up until finally all of the bearing caps are all the way down and seated with the head. Once everything's been run down all the way, then I return to an inside-out approach where I tighten the inside one first and then work my way out on each side. Now we'll go around and reinstall all the bits to the side of the cylinder head. Now we'll install the new intake manifold gasket and button the intake manifold back up. Alright, we'll go ahead and put the new timing belt on using this helpful diagram. We first need to get the rear timing cover back in place. Next we'll install the new idler pulley. I had to lower the engine to get the rear sprocket back in place. I probably raised and lowered the engine at least 10 times doing this job. Okay, the cam sprocket bolts are back torqued down, and I'm putting the top cams back in alignment, and the bottom crankshaft is in alignment now as well. Now we'll transfer the marks over from the old timing belt to the new timing belt. The marks are important because even if the pulleys are in time, it's possible to have the belt off by one tooth if you don't have the correct amount of tightness between the various sprockets. Okay, I'm putting the new belt in, and of course I'm aligning the white marks on the new belt with the marks that are on each of the pulleys. And one of the tricks you can do here is actually rotate the pulleys back towards each other just a little bit to make sure that they go into the correct teeth for each of the pulleys. The belts are tight, of course, when they were on the motor, and if the sprockets are just a little bit too far apart, you'll never be able to get them on. So back the pulley off just a little bit to get the teeth to line up, and then rotate it forward again to make it tight. Also, another trick I use is a butterfly paper clip to hold the belt in place. And remember that the belt should be tight on the leading edge and looser on the backside where the tensioner pulley is. So this means usually that once you have the crank pulley belt in the correct position, you're going to need to back up the cam sprockets a little bit to get the correct amount of tension on the front side of the belt. Once you think you have everything lined up, just double check again. Make sure that the marks are lined up on all of the pulleys, and that the white marks are lined up on all of the pulleys as well, because it's possible for the pulleys to be in alignment but the belt is skipped a tooth. And if that happens, when the engine started, the pulleys will move apart and they won't be in time anymore. Once you're confident everything is where it needs to be, you can go ahead and apply the tension pressure on this model. There's just a pin here that you pull out, and it kind of rotates into place and puts the right amount of tension on. Okay, so that's all the hard stuff. I said this was going to be a two-part video, but I'm saving the boring reassembly stuff for part 3 bonus footage. So keep watching if you're working on this exact car or whatever reason. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.